Hello YouTube, LD50 here, back with another video, and today I'm going to be talking about Easy Mode Amara. This is a face puncher build for Amara, but instead of using face slam as I did in my previous video with a melee Amara, this is using ties that bind and stillness of mind. This also taps into different skills, but this is a very powerful build. There are some considerations when you use it, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the skills. But first we'll dive in and talk about the gear. This build again uses the face puncher, but we want to be having a 300/90 face puncher because the 300/90 anointment will apply to ties that bind. When we grasp enemies, we will use stillness of mind to keep the surrounding enemies in place, and every enemy that is affected by grasp and the stillness of mind will have that shared damage from the ties that bind, and that will gain 300/90 damage. So you can pick up a group of enemies and just pop them all off in one shot. We're going to have a consecutive hits face puncher for enemies, large single enemies that have where we have damaged them more than the 10%, so that the 300/90 wouldn't work. So we're going to have a consecutive hits here. This consecutive hits will be kept alive by the damage over time that we're going to apply with this build, and from throwing hex grenades as well. We will use a frozen heart, which is my preferred shield for melee, but going into the Wotan fight we should probably change that for a stinger. We're going to use an ASE grenade. This one has radiation. We will probably change that over to corrosive for the Wotan fight, and we're going to use a phase zerker. This one has splash damage, melee damage and action skill damage. The splash damage will apply to our white elephant, the melee damage will apply to our face puncher, and the action skill damage will apply to ties that bind. Radiation stone, white elephant. Again, it's got melee damage, area of effect damage, radiation damage, so it's a very good one there. So that's the kit that we need to make this work. Now we'll talk about the skills. We'll do the blue tree first because that tends to be the same for all of my Amara builds. 5 out of 5 into do harm, 3 out of 3 into fast hands, single point into violet tapestry to help us maintain our rush stacks, 3 out of 3 into transcend for the crit damage, and 2 out of 5 into alacrity to help with reload. So we've got plenty of reload there, plenty of reload here. The face puncher does have only 8 in the magazine, so we will be reloading it a lot. So these skills here are quite important to keep our DPS up and to make sure that we don't get caught with our trousers down to some extent, i.e. reloading and low on health where we might go down. Single point into ascendant to give us boosts to our augments. 3 out of 3 into laid bare, 3 out of 3 into wrath, 3 out of 3 into awakening, single point into remnant for the overkill damage, and made our way all the way down to avatar. So the blue tree is fairly standard. We're going to be taking stillness of mind as our action skill augment, as we discussed. Now we'll talk about the fist of elements, the red tree. So in my face slam build I only really went down as far as illuminated fist, but for this build we need to get down to sustainment, and as we're using grasp, a grasp skill, we will want to be using indiscriminate. And the other big difference is we're putting as many points as we can into anima. Now in my face slam build I recommend that we didn't use anima because of the self damage potential, but this isn't a face slam build. We're going to be standing back a bit and picking up enemies from a distance, so anima is needed to make the build work. Now I did say there was considerations to be taken into account when you play. Because we've taken anima, we want to be careful of barrels and explosions from enemies, so that's the explosive balls off of or for heavies, things like that, because they will have increased damage due to anima. So we just have to be a little bit careful on the battlefield about making sure that we avoid or explode barrels before we get near them. So 5 out of 5 into anima, 3 out of 3 into steady hands to give us the extra accuracy with our face puncher. 2 out of 5 into infusion to apply our action skill element to the face puncher. Single point into illuminated fist to give us this extra melee damage. 5 out of 5 into tempest to increase our elemental damage. Single point into dread because we will be one-shotting a lot of our enemies when they're grasped, and that will allow us to keep our face puncher full all the time. Obviously we do have skills in the blue tree which will help us with reload anyway. 3 out of 3 into indiscriminate for the ricochet chance. Now this is a great skill to use with the grasp set of action skills. We're going to be taking ties that bind, obviously, and we'll take a single point down into sustainment for the healing. Now it says only 4% of damage dealt, and that may seem like a small amount, but it's 4% of damage dealt, and we'll be doing enormous amounts of damage, so 4% of what we do will be more than sufficient to keep our health bar topped up. On the brawl tree, we want to get down to find your center, as we would have done with our phase slam build. As my Phaserker Com is putting some points into clarity, I'm choosing here to put my points into Root to Rise to give me more health, particularly for a challenging run through a true takedown. And we're putting 5 out of 5 into Arms Deal for the extra splash damage that will apply to our White Elephant sticky bombs. And then finally making our way down to find your center for the extra 100% melee damage. Finally, on the Enlightened Force tree, we're just taking 5 out of 5 into Heavy Rain for the splash damage boost. The projectile speed boost is a bit less important, but the splash damage is great. That applies, as I've said, to sticky bombs from the White Elephant, and it allows us to get down to Cold-Hearted, which we probably won't use on this run, but at least with this build you can choose any of Amara's action skill elements. You have them all at your disposal. This is an end game build, and so you will need to get down to Groundbreaker to make this build work. It relies on an interaction. Melee attacks or slam will trigger an aftershock, dealing 25% of all non-melee damage you have dealt over the last 5 seconds. Well, the sticky bombs are counted as non-melee damage, so they explode. The next shot does enormous damage because the face puncher is classed as melee damage. You'll also want to think about getting down as far as topped off, shield reboot and emergency response. Topped off, when you have your shields full, it gives you increased cooldown rate, and I believe it's around about 200%, so 3 times the cooldown rate, which is not to be sniffed at. And shield reboot and emergency response will help keeping your shield up or getting it back up if it's gone down to activate topped off. As I said, this is an end game build. You need to have invested some points here, so you'll need to at least 125 down to Groundbreaker, and you'll want at least 50 down to topped off, and you'll want 75 down to emergency response. So you need a relatively decent rank here to make this build work properly. We're going to be doing this on Mayhem 11 because I don't like the modifiers. So that is the build. I'll go through the skill tree one more time so you can see it. That's the purple tree, the blue tree, the red tree, and the green tree. And we'll push forward now. We'll activate True Takedown mode and we'll see how we get on. I do apologise if I go quiet during this run because concentrating on enemies, etc, etc. And I apologise if I go down occasionally because I like to play this build quite aggressively. I'm not going to be taking it easy or playing safe, but the build is perfectly capable of getting back up from fight for your life.
Yeah, I could use the practice.
Try and encourage them to come over here. We'll grasp a load of targets here. When you grasp, don't shoot the middle target, the one that you've grasped. Shoot one of the others. Which I'll not have to do here, unfortunately, because that's that way the damage travels to the other enemies a little bit better. Obviously, with our frozen heart, every time we use our action skill, we're freezing enemies like that. Frozen enemies take increased damage from melee. So we'll push forward. I want to wait till there's a nice group of enemies before I use my action skill. Like that. And as you can see, they're all dying. Right, let's make sure we take care of these barrels around here before we get the... And as I said, I might go down there, but I have no problem getting back up from this. Let's find an enemy. There we go. And as you can see, we've one-shotted that boss using ties that bind. So, no problem getting through there, no problem getting up as well from Fight for Our Life. Fairly successful, I would say. And we'll move forward. Take a little bit of ammo on the way. I don't think we would run out in the Valkyrie fight, but just in case, always nice to have ammo. There's a convenient vending machine just there. And again, remember, this is true takedown mode. And again, a little bit of poor play by me, but we'll get back up in a second. There we go. Let's pick them all up. And take them all out. There we go. Alright, we've got a Valkyrie down here. Let's take care of him. No point using the action skill at that point because there was nothing to connect him to. And again, they've all gone. As I said, I'm playing this fairly aggressively, not too worried about going down. I know that I can get back up again at any point. Keeping our action skill for the mobs of enemies. Here comes the dogs. Let's see if we can pick them all up. Yep. And they've pretty much all gone in one hit. Let's take care of this last Valkyrie here. We'll trigger the last mob phase before they all come and join us for their expected death. And hopefully we can get these all to join together like that and possibly take them out in one go like that. There we go. So very, very powerful build, making short work of True Takedown. And we'll move forward.
Nobody does bullets.
Again, we've got a few barrels around here, so it's worthwhile taking them out in advance. I believe there's a couple of barrels around here that we might want to take care of as well. There we go. Yep. As you can see, the splash damage radius on those barrels is enormous. Again, try to shoot the enemy that you didn't grasp, if there's more than one enemy. I've got a couple here, we'll shoot that one. Oh, he's already gone. He's going to play Captain Runaway and go and hide over here, but that's no guarantee of safety. As you can see, everything is dying with ties that bind and stillness of mind. He's being a bit of a runaway by the looks of it on the mini-map there. Again, let's try to take care of these barrels so that we don't give ourselves any more jeopardy than we actually need.
I am unstoppable!
And somebody wants to run up behind us. Well, I suggested that's a bad tactic. So we'll wait for our action skill to come back before we proceed on to the next bit, just to make sure that we have full use of it. Again, barrels on this truck here, take care of them. As you can see, barrels have an enormous radius with this build, and you'll easily find yourself caught short if you don't pay attention to what's going on. Let's see if we can get him.
Poor form, that's what did you in. I am the greatest. Joy.
We've gone down there, but we should get back up again, no problem. There we go. We've got quite a few of these flying things, quite a few dogs around us. But it is True Takedown, so that's what we expect. And let's proceed on over the bridge.
Still.
Just take a little respite here before we push forward. Allow the enemies to come to us and allow us to get our action skill back. Right, we're down to the last 4 heavies. I want to try to encourage a couple of them to come out so we can get ties that bind to connect several of them. There we go. Right, we'll top up on ammunition and we will just revisit our equipment and action skill element and everything. Make sure we're set up for the Wotan fight before we drop down. Right, so we've got our action skill set to corrosive, which is what we want, and I think we'll change this to there we go. I've got a hex here with action skill end corrosive damage, so that will boost our corrosive damage. Now Wotan is resistant to cryo, I believe, but we're going to keep the frozen heart on. Actually, I did say we might try a stinger shield, but actually I'm going to keep the frozen heart on, mostly because that's going to give us some healing. We will get lots of ads as it's in True Takedown mode, and we will get be able to freeze those, and we will get healing from the Frozen Heart Nova from those enemies. So let's push on, and we'll see how we do. I expect this to be fairly frenetic, and I expect to possibly go down. We'll grasp an enemy. As I said, I expected to go down there. We'll get back up. There we go. We'll keep that enemy alive there for second wind should we need it.
Ready to unleash this power. Oh, we've just made a big.
We want to try to use one of these these enemies to connect to Wotan to take his shield down. There we go. Second half's down. Just the main body now. Might have a bit of trouble here. Let's see how we do. There we go. We've got a second wind off of the glass that surrounds the brain, which was sufficient to get us back up again. Takedown confirmed.
There's nothing I can't beat.
Brilliant work, Vault Hunter.
And
Kicking will make Maliwan
there's
think
the
twice
brain.
before they come at us
So a
again.
little bit scrappy, but as I said, I do like to play this build fairly aggressively. We didn't actually use the consecutive hits face puncher in the end. That's probably bad playing on my part. We probably should have swapped over to this one once we had Wotan's health down. But nonetheless, we managed to clear the True Maliwan Takedown content with, you know, a fair bit of ease, a little bit of going down, but I'm not the best player in the world. So that is the easy mode Amara. You can play it as chaotically as you like. You can be a little bit more circumspect if you like, but I like it because you can play it as hard as you like and get away with it. We'll just recap the build. So we were using a 300/90 face puncher. We were using a Frozen Heart. We were using a Phaserker Com. We're using a Radiation Stone White Elephant there, and in this instance a Corrosive Action Skill End Anointed Hex, but we used I believe a Radiation one for the main part of the takedown. That's our skills: the green tree, the purple tree, the blue tree, and the red tree. That was our Guardian rank, and we were on Mayhem 11. So that is easy mode Amara. Ridiculously powerful. You can play it as aggressively as you like and get away with it. I mean, we even got a second wind off of Wotan there, so all in all I think that was a successful run. I managed to give some commentary throughout it, so I hope you enjoyed that. If you have enjoyed this content, please consider leaving a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I don't make money off this channel, but it is nice to know that people appreciate my content, and leaving a like and subscribing will help me understand my audience a little bit better. So I've been LD50, you've been lovely, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.